Greetings. Welcome to History 103. I guess it's my part to firstly apologize for the rather incongruous setting that we find ourselves in, or rather that I find myself in, and also to apologize for the rather disconcerting nature of this presentation. Ordinarily, we would find ourselves in a classroom together, and that would be presumably optimally conducive to the learning of this highly edifying subject. But alas, we are separated by space and time, and we are relegated to this unconventional mode of instruction, such as it is. So I hope you will bear with me and make whatever accommodations you can and adjustments you must, because you don't really have a choice, and neither do I. So we're in this together, and let's hope for the best and expect the worst and be ready for anything, as I like to say. So I am going to do a couple of things today, and I'm not sure how long this is actually going to last because I tried this out with another class that I'm teaching, and I found out that I can only do this for about an hour, maybe a little bit more if I really push it. I know you guys are a 4 credit hour section. I understand that. I respect that. I'm very cognizant of that. But the extent to which I'm able to actually do proper justice to that time in terms of the actual sequencing and the chronology is going to be ultimately contingent upon whether or not this ends up being a viable mode of instruction for me, and as well as for you. I mean, it's mutually advantageous. We should hope. So there's a bit of formality, I suppose, that I should dispense with before we actually engage with the substance of what I would aspire to get into today. First of all, I'm Jeff. Okay. I'm the guy who sent you a couple emails last week now, or earlier this week. I think today's Sunday, and I sent out an email on whatever it was about 10 days ago, and then some of you got that, some of you didn't. And then I sent out another email apprising you of the situation, updating you on what's going on with respect to the current events. That was a couple of days ago. So if you haven't received those emails, check your email. Okay, that's very important. It's incumbent upon you to do that. It's your responsibility. It's your obligation. It's part of your fiduciary duty as a student to ensure that you're maintaining a certain degree of investment in terms of the learning process. And that is something that I absolutely would regard as a mandatory, obligatory responsibility that is incumbent upon you to fulfill. So I guess this is kind of a superfluous point because I'm just thinking about this now. If you're not checking your emails, all right, you're not going to know what I'm talking about, number one. And number two, you're not even going to be hearing me because I'm going to be sending this link out via email. So I suppose this is a waste of time for those of you who aren't receiving the email in the first place. But for those who are, congratulations. Keep on checking those emails, and hopefully you get this. Hopefully you're listening. Hopefully you're attentive. Hopefully you can stay awake, and hopefully you don't mind the rather inauspicious and incongruous and somewhat ostentatious backdrop that I have here. I'm actually not in the studio. This looks like I don't know how many of you guys have ever taken or heard of this company called the Teaching Company, and they produce these things called the Great Courses. They call them the Great Courses, and they've usually got some lecturer, some professor from MIT or Harvard or Yale, or Princeton or Oxford or some such place, and he's in an environment that is supposed to look very pensive and very studious and academic and philosophical in its quality, and so that's kind of what I'm going for here. But if you actually look closely, you can't see this. If you actually look closely on the back wall over there, because the video quality is so horrendous, and I do apologize for that. I also apologize for the horrible choreography. This is just spontaneous. I'm just doing this because because we have to. We got to get this done with, and it's coming up on Monday, and hopefully you guys will be listening to this. But if you look at the back wall over here, you'll see a bunch of books over here. These aren't history books. They're not law books, which actually, if you when I talk about myself later on, I don't know if I'm going to get around to that today, but you could see law books in my office. These are actually books on interventional radiology. All right, I'm not actually an interventional radiologist. I'm not a doctor of osteopathic medicine, because if I was, I wouldn't be teaching this class. I've been making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and setting up shop in a place like this, reading books over there. Right, and not talking on a laptop from 2001 with a pretty sketchy video recording device on it. This is actually my dad's office. All right, he was kind enough to actually loan me this space, and for this time, actually no, he doesn't know. He doesn't live here right now. But I guess long story short, I'm gonna be in this setting for the next foreseeable hour at least, possibly more, depending on how much progress we make today. I keep saying we. I should say I. And That's the reason I'm in this otherwise somewhat unsuitable environment for a lecture such as this. But I guess if I didn't say any of that, you'd probably think I'm in a library or something, or maybe you think I'm actually in a history office. I don't know what this actually looks like, but you can go ahead and pretend it's my office. I wish I had an office that looked like this. If they gave adjuncts offices like this at Gogebeck or anywhere else, I'll tell you what, there'd be a lot more people in the adjunct business. But I do it because I love it. Love what you do and do what you love, as I say. So hopefully you're doing that right now as a student in history. So a couple of things before I actually get into this, and I'm gonna have to set this up right now. I apologize, guys. There's gonna be a lot of prelude, okay, here, because this is something that ordinarily I would make this very clear in the first couple of lectures. But what I'm doing right now is just to put this in the proper context and to frame this properly and intelligibly for you. Um, I'm actually skipping through the first 13 slides that I sent you guys out in the email that I sent whenever that was, the first email that I sent out to you guys about 10 days ago. I'm skipping the first 13 slides of that PowerPoint presentation. Do me a favor, if you haven't looked at those slides yet, don't look at them now, because there's some surprises in there, and they're fun surprises that would be better discovered in the context of a class environment as opposed to you just looking at it and going through it yourself. So why don't you do me a favor, just skip down. You can do this right now, actually. Ideally, you would be doing this right now. And I'm going to just go on and talk about some irrelevant stuff here so we can give you ample time to actually go through and delve through those slide presentations and get to where you need to be. But I'm going to start talking about the material that is contained on slide number 14 of the first series of PowerPoint slides that I sent out to you guys 10 days ago, okay? So if you open up that file, right, and if you're not that's not accessible to you right now, or it's inconvenient, or you're in a situation where that's just not really practical, why don't you go ahead and pause this, or this is going to be on YouTube, so you don't have to pause it. Just you come back, it'll remember where you are. You can start off where you left off again, and but do what you got to do again. Come back to this point later on, and then we'll start off when you got your PowerPoint slides and they're opened up to the correct area, which is PowerPoint slide number 14. Just scroll down. It's the title of the slide is Foundations of Early Societies. I'm not going to show you what's off camera here, because I get this laptop is very precariously perched on a piece of furniture, and I don't want to knock it over because then I have to start over again. But if I turn this over here, you're going to see. I'll just do this. Here's what I got. Okay, so these are these are the slides that I printed off for you guys, right? Well, I printed them off for me, not for you, actually, because you hopefully will have your computer in front of you when you're listening to this. I don't know how else you're going to listen to it. And I got these here, so I'm going to try to keep pace, right, with the material. And I'm gonna try to not get too far off track, but that's something you're gonna discover about me, for better or for worse, probably for worse. I tend to be somebody who does get off track, and that's especially bad because it's a YouTube video and it's for public consumption and general audience, and I have no idea who's gonna be listening to this in addition to you guys, maybe somebody else. So hopefully nobody too important hears this, because they may think that this is a rather unbecoming and unprofessional representation of the discipline of history. But alas, this is the best that we can manage right now. So under the circumstances, I think we're doing all right. So slide number 14, okay? All right, slide number 14. Now, before I actually get into this, and I promise I'm going to start getting into this real soon, because I see we're already up on 10 minutes. That means I don't know however the hell long we go for this. Before I get into this, a couple of introductory, perfunctory remarks, just to set this all up and to introduce the subject matter and to place it, to frame it in its proper context in relation to the other materials. So what I'm doing for you guys right now is I'm skipping the more interesting, more exciting, more salacious, more intellectually invigorating stuff that can be found in the first 13 slides of our first PowerPoint presentation. That stuff is stuff that really does better lend itself to an actual interpersonal classroom environment. And it's stuff that's my good material. Okay, so I skipped down to number 14, and I'm going to cover. I should tell you this right now, just so you know where we're at and where we're going. I'm going to cover 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, and yes, that may actually take 2 hours. Sometimes I tend to be pretty slow and lugubrious with this process, but we don't know until we get there. So it may take up until 2 hours for me to get through these 5 slides, because there's actually a lot of information that I need to cover today. And I also want to set some things up in terms of just some formalities about how this class is structured and what to expect. But I'm going to get through. This may seem counterintuitive, and this may actually seem nonsensical and unintelligible to you. But there's a method to my madness. What I'm going to do here is, you should hopefully be listening to this on Monday. August 24th, I guess, because today's the 23rd. It's a Sunday before our class ostensibly resumes. And who knows where we're going to be in a week from now? Who knows where we're going to be any time from now with COVID going on? I'm going to say a lot more about this when I'm actually in person. You see me in the flesh, so to speak, because that way I'm not pontificating on things, and it's not going to be on YouTube for people to actually look at and criticize and critique and give me critical feedback on. But I think that what you need to know right now, what's important for today, is to understand that what I'm not going to do today. Okay, so here's what I'm not going to do, and I'm going to tell you what I am going to do, or what I'm going to try to do. What I'm not going to do today is I'm not going to talk about the book. Okay, if you really, really, really want to know about the book, you can, number one, you can call me. Okay, I'm hesitant to actually put my number out here right now because, like I said, this is YouTube. I'm going to make this public for a general audience, so anybody can go in here and just check out my phone number and, be crank calling me and putting my number into websites and things and automated things, and I'm going to get all kinds of telemarketer calling me. I already got enough of those guys, which is strange because I'm actually very poor. I don't know why they call me, but I'll tell you what. I'll try to remember to put my phone number in the email that I sent you guys out, which is associated with the link that's going to attach this particular URL for this video on YouTube. And then you guys, if you really need to talk to me about the book, okay, give me a shout, shoot me a text, right? Don't text me, actually. I would preferably don't text me because I actually don't have it right here, but if I have my phone, I'm going to show it to you. I'll show it to you in class when I actually see you guys in a week or whatever. And you're going to be amazed. You're going to be shocked and awed because I'm probably the only person that you will know that actually still has a flip phone, believe it or not, right? I'm a man who not only teaches about history, right, and embraces history, right, but I actually live history, okay? And I still use a piece of history because flip phone technology is something you'd have to go to the rummage sale or the I don't know, the museum to find. Mine actually still works. It's still functional, believe it or not. But what I'm not going to talk about is I'm not going to talk about the book. Okay. If you, like I said, if you're ambivalent about what I need to do, you need some guidance, you need some instructions, some clarification, reach out to me. I'll tell you everything I think and everything I know about the book. But suffice it right now, suffice it for now, we can delay and we can relegate book discussion to a later time and another date. Which is what I'm going to do because I don't want to burn up time talking about things that are better left and relegated to a class, actual physical class. Second of all, I'm not going to talk about the syllabus, okay? Yes, we do have a syllabus in this class. Yes, I have published the syllabus. No, I haven't given you the syllabus yet because I don't want you to burn up any of your precious printing resources printing out something that I can print for you at Office Max or at the public library or wherever else I go to print your syllabus. So don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. I got you covered. I got your back on that. Okay. And I'm not going to talk about the syllabus furthermore because that's material that I think really does presuppose that there is an interactive sort of exchange dynamic environment where you and I can go back and forth and we can sort of have a dialogue because there will invariably be questions that arise in the course of my elucidating of the syllabus, and so it's something that I'd rather do in the context of an actual physical class. And there's some other things. There's some other administrative perfunctory things that I want to get done in class because it makes sense to me as a teacher to do them more in class. So this may seem like like I'm jumping the gun on a lot of this stuff and I'm getting way ahead of myself. And what is this guy doing? He's not really starting at the proper starting point, right? He's starting at C and then we're going to go to D. And then on the first Monday of the second week, we're going to go back to A and then we're going to cover B on the Wednesday of the second week, right? And we're kind of all over the place and this is really incongruous and it's not sequential. Who cares? Okay. Don't worry about any of that. All right. Okay, because I've already thought this out. All right, I've given a lot of thought, a lot of consideration, and I know what I'm doing. Okay, believe it or not, I may not look like I know what I'm doing, and I may not even sound like I know what I'm doing, but I do. All right, because I've done this before. I've been doing this since 2012, so I know something about teaching. I know something about how to organize curriculum, and I know something about pedagogy as well. All right. So that's what I'm not going to do today. Okay, and I'm not going to try to tell a lot of jokes because I got stuff that I got prepared for you that's actually better left for the actual in class. And I think it's hard for me to work with this stuff right now because you guys can't see, but if I turn this around, there's an empty hallway. This is actually a real big house, my parents' house. And no, before any of you insinuate that, I must be a total D-bag because I'm living in my parents' house. I don't actually live here. I'm temporarily domiciled here. Now, there is a difference, okay? There's a very critical and significant difference, and it's one that really makes, it matters a lot, okay? It's a difference with a distinction, as they say. but it's a big house and I'm all alone. And hopefully I don't get scared because it's gonna get dark out here real soon. Yeah, what am I saying? The point I'm trying to make here is that I don't have a live studio audience, okay? And I don't do very well when I'm just sitting in a room talking to myself, especially when I'm looking at a laptop and the thing is actually giving me the image back to me as it's recording. And I hate having to see myself, and I especially hate having to see myself on camera. So this is very, very difficult for me, right? I want you to, number one. Number two, I try to get my girlfriend to come over here to be my audience, and she was going to kind of sit over here to the side where you could see her because she's actually quite lovely. But she was too busy watching Unsolved Mysteries tonight, so she couldn't come over here because that takes precedence to sitting here and listening to her boyfriend talk bloviate about history for however long it's going to be. So I don't have an audience, right? And that's difficult, right? That's very difficult. But I'm going to try to make this as dramatic and engaging and theatrical and edifying and elucidating and enlightening as I possibly can under the circumstances, which is to say that it's not going to be easy, but we're going to do what we can, okay? And I should also mention to you guys, right? I've already got pre-recorded stuff that I've uploaded to Moodle in the past because I've taught this class online. I've taught a bunch of other history classes online for Go-Beck and other institutions. But I'm not doing that for you because I know and I understand that a lot of you enrolled in this class with the expectation that you were going to have a direct interpersonal interface with the instructor, him or herself, whoever's going to be up here, right? And so I didn't want to do you that disservice by just going ahead and saying, yeah, you know what, the hell with it. They can just listen to me, right? You can put the headphones on, or you can crank up the speakers, and you can listen to me, but you can't see me. So I know it's more important for some of you, especially for some of you that are enrolled in this class, to not just hear, but also to see, okay? So we can make that visual connection. Look at me in the eyes, right? Not only hear my voice, right, but see my mouth, see my wild, insane gesticulations, right? And hopefully you'll be encouraged and animated by that. And if not, then you know what? Let me know. Tell me. By the way, I'm going to tell you guys what I told my political science class. Oh, and that's another thing I should mention, right? If any of you are taking political science, and I think at least one of you actually is a dual enroll. You're enrolled in both my classes. Good for you. Congratulations. I wish I could hook you up with extra credit, but I can't. But if you want to know about political science, right? U.S. government, political philosophy, things like that, right? You come and you talk to me, okay? Because I tend to know, I know quite a bit about that stuff. And also, I should also say I do teach criminal justice here as well, all right? I'm not teaching a course this fall. I was teaching one last year. So if you want help with your criminal justice or political science homework, come to me. I'll hook you up. I'll give you the answers. No, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm teasing. I'm being facetious, right? That would be unethical. That would be unscrupulous, and I'd probably lose my job, and that would be bad. So, all right, so that's what I'm not going to do today, okay? So I'm not going to talk about the book. I'm not going to talk about the syllabus. I'm not going to talk about the introductory remarks that I usually reserve for the very first day because this video that I'm making of myself here, talking to myself in this house, is the equivalent of essentially day 3 or day 4 of our class. All right, just so you guys know where I'm at relative to the material. So that's where I'm at. Okay, now where are we going? What do I aspire to actually do today? Here's what I'm going to do, all right? I'm going to try to bust out these 5 slides here, all right? I'm going to try to knock these bad boys out, okay? We're going to try to tear into this stuff. We're going to try to rip it up. We're going to try to tear it up, okay? And I want you guys to get pumped. I want you guys to be animated because this shit is real, okay? It is real, all right? Let's get real, okay? Hopefully you're feeling the love, okay? Because it's been a long day for me and I'm tired. I'm probably going to have to go sit down in that chair pretty soon because I can't keep standing up here. All right, so without any further delay or any further ado, if I think about something else to say, introductory type remarks, I'll come back and I'll say it. But oh, that's the one last thing. I'm sorry about this, guys. I know I'm 20 minutes into this and I haven't really said anything about history, but this is technically our first class, so I got to get a lot of this stuff out of the way. Because this is going to be a YouTube video, all right, and because I'm something of a egomaniacal, narcissistic D-bag. No, actually, I'm not. I'm teasing. All right. But if you want, all right, hook me up with a thumbs up. Okay. If this didn't suck entirely and you're not asleep by the end of it, all right, and you're not completely disenfranchised and you're not completely disgusted with this class and you don't feel contemptuous towards me, right? Then maybe say to yourself, you know what? Hey, this guy did okay. I'm gonna give him a good congratulatory thumbs up. And I'll tell you what I really would appreciate. If you make some kind of laudatory comment, right, that says, man, this is the best history YouTube video lecture I think I've ever seen or witnessed or heard of, and this guy is such an amateur and he doesn't even know how to edit his videos, but hey, that was a hell of a ride. All right, you actually don't have to say anything. I really don't care. But if you want to, I'd appreciate it. All right, so hopefully you're where you need to be now, okay, because now we actually are 20 minutes into this, and I'm going to stop looking at that clock because it's a serious distraction for me. All right, so slide number 14, okay, and I apologize, guys. I don't have the technological resource to be able to do this contemporaneous with me actually talking to a laptop. I only have one laptop. I have a desktop, but it's heavy because it's a gaming computer. It's upstairs. I can't bring it down here, so these are my version of the slides, right? I apologize, right? And if any of you is keen on editing stuff and you know how to incorporate, like, you can bifurcate the screen in half, right? And like, I'd be on this one half doing my song and dance over here, and then on the other half would actually be the slides. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I don't know how. I don't even have the inclination to learn. Well, actually, I do. So if somebody tells me how to do it, that would be great. Okay. So let's start with slide number 14, okay? And this is going to be a bit of a trick for me because usually I got this stuff on the background on the screen that pulls down, and I can refer to it very quickly and very easily. But now I'm going to have to keep going over to this. There's a shelf over here that I'm looking at. So let's talk about the foundations of early civilizations and early societies. Now, before I get into that, all right, I just want to say that this is a world history course, okay? So if you're expecting U.S. history, you're expecting European history, you're in the wrong place. Actually, no, you're kind of in the right place because it's world history, right? But it's world history until about 1500. Whether or not we actually get that far, I don't know. Nobody knows. God only knows. Okay, he may not even know, right? We probably won't get that far, right? I tend to usually get into the early Middle Ages, and that's a tall order, anyways, because we start talking about prehistory in this class, right? When I'm delving into a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, it's actually going to be prehistory. Okay, now a couple of ground rules, okay, and I will clarify and expound upon some of this stuff when I actually see you guys in person in the flesh. But first of all, this is a world history and world civilization course, right? So why is that? What's the significance of that, right? Why should you, all of us metaphorically, why should anyone care about world civilization? Well, I'll tell you something, all right? In case you haven't noticed this, our world is more interconnected and interdependent than it ever was before, okay? You can get on a plane from JFK Airport in New York, all right, or LaGuardia Airport in New York City, right? And you can get on that 767 or that 777 or that A330, and you can get on that bad boy. You can hop across the Atlantic, and you can be in London in about 7 or 8 hours, depending on the tailwinds, depending on the headwinds, right? Now, 50 or 80 years ago or 100 years ago, you had to get on a boat, okay? And that boat was a steamship, was a transatlantic crossing, right? That boat took upwards of a week or two, okay? So we're much closer to each other, okay? We're much closer in the literal sense. We're much closer in the metaphorical sense, and the world is more interconnected. And this is not this is a point that is just as salient in the context of the Keweenaw of the Michigan's Upper Peninsula as it is salient in the context of where I'm actually located right now, which is the Metro Detroit area, which is a very cosmopolitan place because we've got Iraqis here, we got Chaldeans here, we got Lebanese here, we got Hispanic people here, we got Jamaicans here, we got Russians here, we got Ukrainians here, we got Israelis. It's a hodgepodge, right? It's the literal manifestation of the proverbial melting pot, as they call it, right? Now I know you guys have a bunch of Finns, okay, and Cornwallian people from Cornwall, England, up there, but you don't have all those other tribes and ethnicities and nationalities that I talked about. However, that is really a moot point because unless you really aspire and anticipate that you're going to be spending the rest of your life in the Keweenaw, and that's fine. I got no criticism of that whatsoever, right? That's great. I wish I could have been born and raised up there because I'd probably be a much more honest, decent, noble individual because you guys are old school in your cultural ways. But unless you plan on spending the rest of your life up there, well, it's very important for you to understand the significance of other cultures, where people came from, why they believe in what they believe in, what their religious traditions are, what their heritage entails. It's important to focus on these things. And what we're really going to focus on in this class is the etymology of traditions, of culture, of heritage, the evolution of history, people's history, how they came to be the way they are, how they came to believe in the things that they believe in, right? Now, you may say that, well, yeah, that's thousands of years ago. Well, yes, but history is interconnected, okay? It's a series of interconnected, interrelated, interdependent events, right? right? It's like a domino effect, okay? A leads to B, B leads to C, so on and so forth. It's sequential, it's chronological. These things are interdependent, and they go all the way back to the point that inspired it all, right? And I'm not talking about Adam and Eve, okay? This point is variable. It depends on who you're talking about at any given time and where you're talking about too. So that's a very brief and probably a somewhat disingenuous representation of why this class is important. But suffice it to say, I'm going to do a lot more of this business of trying to sell you on this idea of history when I actually see you in person, or possibly I'll do some more of this when we actually record our second video, whatever you want to call this, the telelecturing. I don't know what this even is. Okay, so this slide number 14, right? One of the points that I think is important is that people tend to come to this class with many misconceptions that have been modulated by popular culture concerning their understanding and their interpretation, their perception of ancient history. People come to this class, and when they think about ancient history, they think about there's a special premium or a special emphasis placed on the significance and the import of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. Because our culture, the culture of the 21st century United States, and indeed the 20th century United States, has an unnatural fascination and almost a fetish with Roman history and Greek history. More so Roman, but also Greek. And if you look at the movies that have been produced by Hollywood, if you go all the way back to the movie Spartacus with Kirk Douglas and some other people who are probably all long since dead. In fact, Kirk Douglas, I think he just died last year. God bless his soul. He was 101 years old. But you go back to Spartacus, and you go back to The Robe, and you go back to Ben-Hur, and you go back to the Ten Commandments. Well, that actually was pre-Rome, but you go back to a lot of these movies that were made in the golden age of Hollywood, right? And these movies really focused on the Roman Empire, okay? And if you go back to and then if you see the development of cinema as it's developed over the course of the last 30 or 40 years, you see that we've sort of transitioned. We still have the same underlying fascination or fixation with Rome, but it's interesting because now if you look at the Romans in the movies, right? Because historically, back in the good old days, the golden days of cinema, the Romans were always the bad guys, okay? Well, now the Romans are actually the good guys, right? Now, I think that says more about our contemporary perception of ourselves here, geopolitically and culturally, here in the United States in the 21st century, that it says about the realities of the Roman Empire. But the broader point, okay, that I think you should try to assimilate yourself to is that you and I, all of us metaphorically, we together, here in the 21st century United States, do have this fascination with history. Okay, it's a fascination that transcends the narrow parameters of just Rome, right? It's a fascination that impels and motivates and inspires not just movies, not just television series, right? Not just video games, but also novels, also books, fiction, nonfiction, right? All manner of popular cultural expressions. Okay, these historical facts have inspired these things, and what I want you to try to do is to not let your previous exposure to popular cultural interpretations of history, don't let that prejudice or otherwise inform your perspective of the facts as we interpret them and try to understand them. Okay, so another way of saying this is don't go out there and watch Gladiator if you've already seen Gladiator. You can't help this, but don't go out there if you've seen Gladiator, right? Or if you're going to go watch Gladiator, or a movie like that, okay? It could be Alexander, it could be The Passion of the Christ, it could be any movie that deals with, pertains to the substance of what it is we're actually going to be dealing with in this class. Don't go out there and then come to this class and think that what it is we're going to be talking about in this class has any cogent relationship to the material that you saw represented in that film that you watched, or that television series that you were watching, or that video game that you were playing, because I think there are some video games that actually do concern themselves with the Egyptian period, the Egyptian period under Ptolemy, successor of Alexander the Great. If you're a fan of the Assassin's Creed series, one of the best video games of all time, perhaps, certainly one of the best cinematic trailers for, if you're on YouTube while you're at it, go check out the trailer for Assassin's Creed. I can't remember the actual, the one that came out about 3 years ago, but it references ancient Egypt. Okay, so what I'm saying is, when you come to this class as the Romans would say, with an intellectual tabula rasa. Okay, the tabula rasa in Latin is a blank slate. Okay, your mind should be like, it should be a blank slate because that means you've been lobotomized, right? And you're not thinking about anything. But no, be thinking critically, be thinking analytically, be active in terms of your cognition, right? But come to this class without any preconceived notions as to what it is you're going to expect, all right? Or if you do, right, be prepared to have those notions, those preconceptions overturned or repudiated throughout the course of our discussions and our interactions with respect to the past, because that's the whole point of not just the history experience, but it's the point of a college education and higher education in general, is to test and to challenge your preconceived, pre-existing presuppositions, and to validate them or to overturn and repudiate them. Okay, so the next point on this slide, all right, and again, guys, I apologize. I should stop apologizing. I'm just wasting time and I'm probably boring you with this, but I'm going to continue to apologize because this is not what I typically do. I don't typically grab papers off a desk over here and sit here and look at these papers. I have to get my bearings and my orientation because this is my slides, right? Ordinarily, my slides are on the back of the wall over there because they're being broadcast from a projector, but these are the slides, so this is the best I can do in the circumstance. So I do apologize. All right, so the last point of the slide, and the last point that I think I need to talk about as far as slide number 14 is where we're at in case you guys are confused and discombobulated here. The last point of the slide is talking about the prerequisites to agriculture and what is the significance of agrarian societies. Now I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in the slide after the next slide because it actually gets into the details of this, but suffice it to say, it's important to be able to delineate very critically and analytically between two different types of very early rudimentary societies. So on the one hand, okay, and this is where I need a dry erase board, but I'm too cheap. They cost at least $10 at Walmart, and I got to go out there and get it. And so I'm gonna have to do this with finger puppets or something. So on the one hand, you've got hunter gatherers. Okay, so hunter gatherers they live over here on this side of the screen, right? I'm a hunter gatherer over here, right? And then on the other side, right, on the more evolved side of the civilizational continuum, right? Because civilization is a continuum. I'm going to get into that later, and ordinarily I would tell you guys to remind me of that, but I'll probably forget. So, more evolved civilizationally is something we refer to as the agrarian type society or the agrarian type culture. Okay, it's a more evolved, more advanced, more efficient, more efficacious social structure. Okay, and I'm gonna actually get into the details as far as how we actually differentiate between these two different ways of structuring people or social organizations, because that's essentially what they are. They're social groups. They're groups of people living together communally and collaboratively and mutually for the benefit of all. All right, so let's go back over here. Now you guys remember who I am over here, right? I'm not just the guy standing on the left side of the room, right? I'm the guy standing on the left side of the room pretending to be a hunter gatherer. Okay, so what do hunter gatherers do? They get down like this, right? They get down like this. They don't wear hats with the Serbian national flag on it, right? In fact, they don't even wear shirts. I can't do that. Hunter gatherers. If I was actually a hunter gatherer, I'd be running around here, not quite butt naked, but in loincloth, like Tarzan, looking for George of the Jungle or Bobo or whoever his pet monkey was. Now, what's the critical feature of hunter gatherers? Well, they're very crude. Okay, they're not highly evolved. They're not very sophisticated. If you were to go back and to see a snapshot in time, 15, 20,000 years ago, all right, in the early stages of the development of, the middle stages of the development of the species, Homo sapiens, what you would find is that there were no aqueducts or coliseums or great edifices of architecture. What you would see, and what you would see all around the world, regardless of whether you're in Mesopotamia or Egypt or Europe or Asia or Africa or wherever, right, what you would see is the same thing. It would be ubiquitous. It would be unequivocal across the world, right? You'd see a bunch of people living as though they are savage Neanderthals. Now they're actually technically not Neanderthals because they're more evolved. They're more than proto-humans. They're actually Homo sapiens. And by the way, for those of you who've never taken a biology class or a I don't know, an anthropology class, Homo sapien just means same. Okay, thinking. Okay, Homo is same, similar, right? And sapien, a sapient being is a thinking being, somebody who can cogitate things in their mind, right? So for those of you who actually care about these kinds of things, there you have it. Now, what would you find? What are the hunter gatherers doing? Here, I'll show you what they're doing. Okay, I don't actually have any props, and I'm sorry, I should have thought about this before. I would have brought some swords in here or something. But here, I'm a hunter gatherer. I'm gonna go over here, and who am I looking for? Right? Actually, I do have a prop. It's over here in the corner. All right, I'm looking for this. Okay, you guys can't see this. All right, this is getting kind of ridiculous, but this is my friend over here. This is Mr. Bigglesworth. I don't know. This is my dad's plaster dog, and I hope he doesn't break because I'm holding him by his ears, and then there'd be evidence of me breaking this. But I'll have to erase the YouTube video if I do that. All right, so this is who we're hunting. If we're not actually hunting this poodle or whatever this thing is. We're hunting animals though. All right. Hence the term hunter gatherer. Okay. So you're hunting animals, all right, and you're running around after Simba, okay, on the Serengeti plains of Africa, because that's actually where life began. They call Africa the cradle of life, not the cradle of civilization, okay, and that's not disparaging or denigrating to say that, right? That it's not the cradle of civilization, because it's technically not. The cradle of civilization is something else, right? We'll talk about the thing it's actually Mesopotamia. I'll give you a little hint, right? But Africa was the cradle of life, right? And if you guys ever remember that early Angelina Jolie movie, back before she had her lips full of Botox, and before, I think even before Brad Pitt, she was the Tomb Raider, okay? And the original Tomb Raider, she went down to Uganda or Zimbabwe or someplace in sub-Saharan Africa, and she was looking for the origins of the species, and she discovered a bunch of uh, baboons living in a cave that had laser guns attached to their head, and it was a really stupid plot. Actually, no, I'm thinking of the movie Congo, which was even dumber than this. But the point is, it was called The Cradle of Life, and it was in reference to Africa, which actually, in point of fact, was essentially the cradle of life. Humans, Homo sapiens, our species, began in Africa, and we migrated out of Africa. Okay, so for those people out there who have some kind of racial prejudice, right? The people who tend to be racist tend to be fairly ignorant and uninformed, anyways. But they compound their ignorance and they exacerbate their stupidity, right? Because what they don't fundamentally understand is that we are actually all technically Africans. If you wind the tape back far enough, right? If you wind it all the way back to me standing all the way back here, right, which is pretty far, right? If you wind the tape all the way back to the beginning of, I got a globe here, all right? You guys probably can't, all right, so there's a globe over here, right? I can actually turn this on, but I'm going to waste more time, all right? But if you wind it all the way back to when Homo sapiens were coming out of Africa, right? They're coming out of Africa, right? You will see that we originated from that area, okay? And I mean, when I say we, I mean we collectively, okay? So, you can trace back your lineage to your grandfather and his great grandfather and great great great, tied to the 15th power, right? And you go back far enough, right? We share common ancestors, okay? And if you go back really, 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 really far, right? We all share a common ancestor, okay? You guys are going to learn very, very quickly if you haven't figured this out already. I like talking about movies, all right? I'm a movie guy, okay? Of course, I'm a movie guy. I'm making a movie right now. I'm the actor. I'm the star of my own movie. This is a pretty crap movie, but alas, it is, I guess, technically a movie of sorts, and it's not going to be edited, by the way. So this is going to be even worse than you could possibly imagine. But I like movies, and there was a movie called Lucy. It was starring Scarlett Johansson, the girl from the Avengers movie, who I'm sure you guys are aware of. I can't stand her; she's overrated, and I don't think she's really that great of an actress. But she's in the movie called Lucy, right? Lucy was in reference to the first proto-human, okay, that made the evolutionary leap from the chimpanzee to the human Homo sapiens, the more evolved, cogent, thinking beings, right? The ones that were able to cogitate thoughts, sophisticated thoughts in their mind, and do strategic planning and think tactically and technically and do all other sorts of things, which eventually led to physics and astronomy and architecture and music and all the other beautiful things that comprise human culture and civilization. But why am I going off? Why am I seemingly going off the track? And we're talking about anthropology and the development and the origins and the etymology of the species. Well, because this stuff is actually part and parcel of this class, right? I'm not just talking about this stuff just for the hell of it, right? I'm talking about this because it actually is integrated into our curriculum, believe it or not, right? Believe it. Don't disbelieve it, okay? Because I'm telling you, so believe it. Now, going back to my hunter-gatherer model over here. Okay, so I'm hunting. Okay, or I'm gathering. Right? Not or. It's not an either or. It's a proposition. It's an and proposition. Right. So I'm hunting and I'm gathering. Right. Now who am I hunting for? Well, I'm hunting for wildebeests and chimpanzees and gorillas and saber-toothed tigers if you go back far enough, right? And what's the problem with that? Okay, well, I'll tell you guys something, all right? I'm a firearm owner. Okay, I'm a fervent, very vociferous believer in the Second Amendment. And you'll hear some of this comes out. I'm not going to pontificate too much because I don't want to waste your guys' time on this. But if I go out there to Zambia, okay, or to Kenya, all right, that's where you go if you're a big game hunter and you got a lot of money and you got a lot of time and you got nothing better to do. If I go to Kenya with my Romanian Kalashnikov, my AK-47, it's chambered for a 7.62 round by 39 millimeter, and I go out there and I'm hunting wildebeests. Well, that's not particularly dangerous for me, right? But if I'm out there with very crude, very rudimentary stick-based implements, right, and I'm hunting with the stick, and then I got this sharpened stone on the end of this, right? You got to give a lot of props. You got to give mad props, okay? Mad props from the hood to those guys, all right, and those girls, okay, who went out there and braved the ferocity and the viciousness of those wild beasts that they had to track down, find, hunt, kill, bring back, prepare, and then eat. Right? Sounds like a hell of a lot of work, doesn't it? Well, it is. Okay. We're gonna come back to this point because I want to save some of the punchlines for later on. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to number slide number 15. Okay, it looks like that. All right, it's actually slide number 2 in the sequence of slides tonight, but it's technically slide number 15. So go ahead and press your right forward arrow key. Right. What this says is it says prehistory / anthropology. What is anthropology? Who can tell me what anthropology is? I'll tell you what. I'm not going to start lecturing again until somebody gives me a good answer as to what anthropology is. I'm just going to sit over here in this chair and I'm going to wait until I get a good. I'm teasing. I'm not that ridiculous. Well, actually, I am, but I'll tell you what anthropology is. Okay. Oh, hey, Jeff, I know what anthropology is. Yeah. What's anthropology? You over there? You wearing that stupid looking hat and that goofy looking shirt, and you're looking all incongruous because you're wearing those shorts. Right? What is anthropology? Anthropology is the study of human culture and civilization and the evolution, the development of the species. That's a fairly disjointed definition, but it really focuses on culture, all right? Human cultures and how they evolve and how they influence one another and what the constituent components of human culture are and how culture begins to accrue and accumulate all the various features that constitute it in the aggregate, right? That's a somewhat convoluted definition of anthropology, but suffice it to say, we're going to be focusing not just on history in this class, all right? Whenever I teach, whatever class it is I'm teaching, right? Because all the classes that I teach, in my estimation, are actually all interdisciplinary type courses, right? And this class is no different. In fact, this class is very much the same. When I say interdisciplinary, what does that actually mean? Well, think about it. What does it mean when I say interstate? What is inter anything, okay? Interstate, all right? Interstate means you're going from state to state, okay? Intergalactical, right? Intergalactical empire means it's an empire that extends beyond the boundaries of the particular empire, right? So interdisciplinary, right, means that you are studying a subject which is multifarious and multifaceted in its aspects, right, and it partakes of different disciplines, right? Now we're going to get to this point on the tactical day one, the day one when I actually am standing here in person, and you guys can actually see just how stylish I really am, as opposed to see this on a YouTube video. But interdisciplinary, okay, that's the name of the game, right? And that's not the name of the class, but it's the mantra and it's the ethos, and it's sort of our it's how we modulate our understanding of history, okay? Because history is ipso facto an interdisciplinary subject. Now, what disciplines does history partake of? Well, one of the disciplines that history partakes of is this thing called anthropology. All right, you can't understand history without understanding anthropology, the evolution, the origin of culture, because they are interdependent, they are interrelated, and they are inexorably intertwined. Um, the the climate change. Okay, so let's talk about climate change. We should reference Al Gore because he's such a brilliant scholar on these things. No, he's actually not. Don't go out there and you go Google him or watch him on YouTube. You can find him on the same website that I'm on here, and he probably sounds just as intelligent as I do. Actually, probably maybe even slightly less. Which is to say that he doesn't really know what he's talking about. So I've got a I got a picture here of Africa. Okay, and it's showing trying to depict not very vividly or viscerally because it's very difficult for me to see this because it's very small. It's trying to depict where humans not civilization but where humanity where a species originated from. That we came out of the Great Rift Valley. Okay, uh, slightly interesting fact, not particularly dispositive, but climate change climate change was what caused us to move from the African savanna and to spread out this diaspora of humanity all across the world. Okay. And the other thing that is important as it relates to this particular slide here is about 75,000 to 50,000 years ago, there was something of an evolutionary leap forward in terms of the species. Okay, just like there was an evolutionary leap between the Homo neanderthalensis and Homo sapiens. The Homo sapiens were more evolved primates. They were able to cogitate thoughts and consider things much more analytically and much more. Excuse me, guys. I've just been talking too much. This is not COVID. I hope not. Cross fingers. I got some fake wood. This actually real wood. Knock on. I should have some water in here, guys. And I may actually have to take a break on this, but I'm coming up to 50 minutes, and I can't imagine I'm going to do too much over. I'm probably about halfway. But don't feel as though I hope none of you feel as though I'm doing you a disservice if all I give you is an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes. Because ordinarily this class is only slated to be an hour and 53 minutes, and that doesn't comprehend the fact that we ordinarily take at least 2 5-minute breaks or one 10-minute break. And I don't know which it's going to be. It's up to you guys. So actually, this class is tactically it actually really ends up only being closer to an hour and 40 minutes. So if I cut this down to an hour and 25, you're only losing about 10 minutes, if that. Okay, by my calculations, and I was never much of a math guy, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. So, and this is not that hard to stand up here, but I'm getting tired, and it's actually hot in here because I'm too cheap to turn the air conditioning on, and I got the door closed behind me, so it's stuffy in here. But suffice it to say, getting back to the point, getting back on target here. What happened between 75,000 and 50,000 years ago? Well, what happened is the species fundamentally changed in a way that allowed for us to develop higher order cognitive capacities. Okay, so what you will see if you look at the development of Homo sapiens, if you guys have seen the chart, I guess it starts from your left. All right, so my right. All right, it starts over here, right, and it shows the guy over here, right, and he's kind of like this. He's dragging his knuckles, and he looks like a barbarian. He looks like I look like on a Saturday morning after I've been out at the. Well, I won't go into that, but it looks like and you had one hell of a party last night, bro. And you're kind of like, oh, dog, I can't even stand up, right? And then you kind of get to the more evolved proto Homo sapien, right? And that guy's a little bit less decrepit. He's a little bit less bent over. He's kind of slightly more, standing up a little bit more, right? And then you get this guy over here, right? And he's kind of looking like this. He's still got his shoulders back like this. And then you get to this guy, right? And that's Homo erectus, right? He stands upright, right? He's Homo erectus. He's standing up straight up like a soldier at attention, right? There you go. Right now the point is that there's 1,000 memes that have done this, right? And they show the guy that's, I don't know, he's coming out of the woods or something, and then he goes down to Detroit and he becomes more evolved. I don't know what they do, but you got they do it with liquor commercials, and it makes more sense, and it's a hell of a lot more funny than what I'm doing because it doesn't make any sense the way I'm explaining it. But the point that I'm trying to make though is that not only did the species become more upright, okay, But the species develops a higher cranial capacity, okay, and the brain becomes larger, right? The physical, the sinews, the muscles, and the fibers and such, they may not become bigger, right? But they become, well, more human-like. Okay, is what they're doing, right? But the important thing to understand here, the takeaway with respect to what I'm talking about right now, is that Homo sapiens are becoming smarter. Okay, they're becoming smarter, and they have more cognitive capabilities as a function of their greater cranial capacity and the larger capacity of their brain, and the fact that they've got more gray matter and they're able to process more information, because that's essentially what gray matter, that's what intelligence is. You want a working definition of intelligence, right? It's the capacity to process information efficiently, and more quickly you can process information, the more efficiently you can process information quickly, right? The more effectively you can engage with your environment in a way that is functional and tangible and viable and efficacious and practical and helpful for you. So what do you get when when you got this guy who started over here and he's out of the jungle, and then you get this guy who's he's getting more upright, right? What do you eventually get? Well, you get people who have the capacity to express themselves verbally. They have the capacity not merely to cogitate thoughts in their mind, to think about, oh, there's this woolly mammoth over there, and I want to go over there and beat him down, right? And I gotta get this stick, and I gotta get this rock, and I gotta go throw it at his head, right? You can think of that, right? But what happens at this point of the delineation here that I'm trying to make here, this 50,000 to 75,000 mark? Well, you begin to see a capacity that is innate to, imbued in, endemic with humans at this point, Homo sapiens, early, mid developed, partially developed Homo sapiens, and perfectly developed primates, that they have the capacity to actually articulate the thoughts that are actually in their mind, right? So cogitating something is just sitting around thinking about it, right? Cogitating on this video, for instance, right? Wow, your background lighting is horrible, your choreography is absolutely atrocious, your editing skills are non-existent, you look like a tool wearing that shirt. That's cogitating, right? Actually expressing that is something else. That takes a higher level of cognition. That takes a higher degree of cognitive capacity to actually express things. Now, why the hell am I talking? Who cares, right? Who cares? Who can tell me why this is important, right? Why is this important? This is why I want my beguiling and beautiful, lovely girlfriend in here, because it would be entertaining to have her sit here in front of you guys, and I would probably be saying even more nice things about her. But now I can get away with talking trash about her because she's not here. Well, this is where it would be helpful, because I could call on her, and then she wouldn't actually know the answer, so I can make her look like an idiot. But the question here that I'm asking myself, because I'm the only person here talking to myself, is why does that matter? What is the importance of verbal capacity? What does that, how does that differentiate between a partially evolved species, right, and a more evolved species that is inching forward slowly but inexorably towards civilization? How does language skill facilitate, or in some way enable, the more effective and efficient consummation of civilization, right? Well, I think we need to understand what civilization is. Civilization is intellectual and cultural progress, okay? All right, so you think about Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Galileo and Einstein and Bertrand Russell and Socrates and Aristotle and Euclid and all the other great philosophers, right? All those guys were doing civilizing, okay? They were doing civilizing, right? Rome, the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic before it was a civilizing instrumentality in relation to the rest of the world. But why is language important? What does language give to you? What does it imbue you with? Well, it imbues you with the capacity to make sounds, right? I mean, I'm making sounds to you right now. Okay, I'm making noise at you, right? But language is more than just noise, okay? Because Homo sapiens had the capacity to make noise before this, right? They could go around and, so if I was a pre 75,000-year-old Homo sapien, my lecture would sound like this. All right. Well, it would look and sound like this. Like, maybe not that, right? But it would probably sound something like that. Okay. Now I'll dispense with the antics, and I'll just come to the point. I'll come right to it. Right? The point is that when I can actually articulate my thoughts in a way that is hopefully intelligible to those who are listening, right, and makes sense and is lucid and coherent, and you can actually understand what I'm saying, right? Well, that enables us to communicate, right, and to collaborate and to come together and to work together and to benefit each other for the sake of the collective good. That's what communication facilitates. That's what it enables. And that's why it is so indispensable as a prerequisite to the evolution of civilization and the progress of humanity as a whole, historically and anthropologically, and in every other way that matters as well. Right? So that's why speaking clearly, lucidly, intelligently, that's why that matters. As opposed to I gotta calm down, guys. I'm gonna give myself a seizure. So let's talk about. I'm doing all right. I haven't had to look at my notes yet. These don't qualify as my notes. I'm proud to say this. I got a whole book of notes over here. Let's check this out. Yeah, you guys see that? No cheating. You can't take. I actually sometimes I'm concerned. Sometimes I when we're in the classroom, I'm gonna kind of leave this just chilling on the front desk. Whatever the instructor podium. Don't try to steal this, okay? Because I will hunt you down, all right? Because I am nothing without my notes, all right? Just like I'm nothing without a live studio audience, I'm nothing without my notes. No, actually, I'm probably able to do this off the top of my head. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. There's notes, all right? So this is all ad-libbed, all right? It's just George Clooney, eat your heart out. He thinks it's not. He doesn't have much reverence for ad-libbing, but ad-libbing just means you're making up lines as you're going along. Some actors can do that better than others. Hugh Jackman can do that really well. Okay, so let's get back to the dynamics, all right? So I began talking about hunter-gatherers, right? This is an important point, and it's one that requires some theatricality. All right, so again, I'm hunter-gatherer over here. Now, what are the dynamics of the hunter-gatherer society, right? The social construct that we define in the vernacular of history and anthropology, we refer to as hunter-gatherers. Well, number one, okay, if you're running around, right, with a spear or a rock or a nunchuck or whatever you got, right? You're running around and you're trying to chase after wild animals in the Serengeti plains of Kenya, proto-Kenya, right? What are you doing? Well, you're running around, right, Jeff? You just said you're running around chasing after these things with rudimentary weapons. Yeah, you're doing that. Okay. What does that require? Well, it requires a lot of this. Whew. Requires that, right? Why does that matter, right? What is that? What does that mean? You're being physically engaged in physically vigorous activity that can also be very laborious, right, and very exhausting, right? Now, what is it? What is it? If you're chasing after, you've got to go after. You got to hunt down your food, all right? You got to hunt it down. You got to sometimes wrestle it down to the ground, right? You got to be strong, got to grip a hold of it and wrestle it down, and then bash it over the head with a rock, right? That's a very energetic process, right? And if it's an energetic process, okay, and you are becoming energized that you're engaged in the process of going out there and pursuing your prey, right? Well, then you're exhausting yourself. Okay, number one, you're getting more tired more quickly. You're getting tired more expeditiously. Number two, this is an energetic process. Okay, and whenever you're physically energized, whenever you're out there doing stuff, right? Physically, I'm gonna go to Powerhouse down in Southfield because I'm one of the people down here in Detroit that's still so stupid that I think it's more important to go to the gym and get some good lifts in, right, than actually worry about whether or not I'm going to catch COVID. Now, I shouldn't be telling you guys this, but I wear a mask. I stay away from all the goofballs in there that don't wear a mask. But when you're doing anything, right, any physically strenuous activity, right, I'm getting my rows in here. I'm getting some pumps in over here, right. You're burning calories, okay, and this is a metabolic process, right, and the more physically active you are, the more intensive the metabolic process is working, okay, the more calories you need to consume to replenish the calories that you lost to replace the energy, because energy is, biologically, it's predicated on your capacity to actually generate energy, which comes from the metabolic process, right? So from a physiological standpoint, right, hunter-gatherers are kind of in a rather predicament of sorts, right? Because it's an energetic process. I got to go out there and I got to catch Simba and the other guy, the evil uncle that was trying to take over the Lion King's kingdom, Groucho or whatever his name was. I got to go catch him too, right? And not get mauled by those guys in the process. Okay, so it's dangerous. It's inherently dangerous to be a hunter gatherer. It's dangerous because of the fact that you're hunting wild animals that are generally tend to be vicious, right? You're hunting large mammals. You have very crude, very rudimentary, very unsophisticated, and very relatively unreliable methods of actually procuring your prey. Okay, imagine going out to the wildlife park in Kenya, and instead of hunting wildebeests or black leopards or water buffalo or whatever the lions, the other big five game elephants and things. Instead of hunting them with a 30-06, right, or a 7.62 millimeter, right, or 30-30 Winchester, right, you got to go out there and I'm going to give you a baseball bat, okay, and you got to go and chase after the cheetah over there with the baseball bat, right? Well, you're probably going to get mauled in the process, okay? So it's now what else does this entail? Therefore, well, again, it's physically very energetic. It's very laborious. It's very tedious. It's not very efficient either. Okay, because it's not the case with the hunter-gatherers that 100% of the time that hunter-gatherers go out and they hunt, right? They bring back whatever they were aspiring to actually hunt. Okay, it's the case that I don't know what their success rate is. Right, it depends on where they're at, depends on the ecology, depends on the abundance of animals, it depends on how well they can coordinate their movements, depends on the efficiency of hunting, depends on how well they're actually able to sustain themselves, the metabolic process, depends on a lot of things, right? And that's the other point, all right, is that hunter and gatherers are a very precarious social structure, social organization, okay? Social construct, the word that I like to use, it's a term of art, right? A social construct, right? It's a very precarious social construct, right? Meaning that they have a very vertiginous existence, right? It's one that can be easily snuffed out like that. Snuff it out, right? Just whoosh, okay. Now, why is that the case? Well, aside from the fact that, oh man, it's hard to go out there and chase after those animals. I got to run real fast, and I got to jump around and shit, and I got to climb up trees, and I got to hit them over the head, and hopefully not get mauled and killed and bitten and scarred up with whatever. And I don't have a lot of food to eat, right? Because I got to share all this stuff with the women and the children and the women, the kinfolk back there at the camp, right? And animals, okay, wild animals, right? Especially herd type animals, but any kind of animal. You think about animals, right? Our deer are they're always going to be the same for those hunters out there, okay? And I know there's going to be some of you guys in this classroom, in this virtual whatever the hell this is. For those hunters out there, are deer always going to be living in the same area at all times, right? Well, actually, maybe deer is a bad example, right? But let's assume that there's active climate change going on. There's deforestation, okay? There's deforestation in the Pierre Marquette National Forest, okay? Because we're coming in there with our trucks and our bulldozers and we're tearing all this stuff down. And we got, because we got a degree in forestry from Quebec and we're going in there, we're bulldozing the shit out of this and we're creating paper products because people need more toilet paper, right? And we're bulldozing the hell out of the Pierre Marquette National Forest. What happens to the deer? Are they just going to be chilling in there, or are they going to be like the Na'vi in the movie Avatar? Okay, it's going to be more like the Lieutenant Uhura's character from Avatar, right? I'm talking about the girl who plays Lieutenant Uhura in the Star Trek movies. You guys probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about because these are all old movie references. Old 2010. Oh, imagine how old that is. Wow, Jeff, you must be really old. Yeah, I am even older than that. So the problem here is that when you got animals, right, they're not always consistent. They're not always reliable. They're not always dependable. They're not always dependably in the same place at the same time. It's not like a farm, for instance, right? If I got a cheetah farm or a zebra farm or a gazelle farm or a wildebeest farm, right, I just go down to I just go down to the pen down here, right, and I got my stun gun, right? I got the thing that they get to use it on cattle, right? Looks kind of like a pistol with a giant silencer on it. No Country for Old Men. Okay, not Anthony Bourdain, Javier Bourdain's character, right? He carries this thing around. You guys haven't seen the movie; it's rated R. Maybe it's beyond some of your guys. I don't know if you're 17 or older, but check it out if you haven't seen it. It's really amazing, and you'll know what the hell I'm talking about. But I go down there and I shoot this thing in the head with my cattle gun, giant silencer thing, right? It's a stun gun, right? That's easy, okay. But with hunters and gatherers, the situation is again very precarious, and it's subject to the vicissitudes of the weather and the climate and all sorts of climate fluctuations that are beyond the control and unanticipated right? It's not subject to anticipation by these very crude, very rudimentary, very uncivilized people that don't really understand anything about the weather, and that's why they make up a bunch of uh, spiritual stories, right? Metaphorical, allegorical stories that explain lightning and thunder on volcanoes and earthquakes and all the other stuff that they can't understand because they're just too crude to know anything. Um, that's so. These are some of the problems with hunter-gatherer societies. What are some of the benefits of hunter-gatherer societies, if there are any benefits, right? Well, as I said, history is an interdisciplinary subject, right? Interdisciplinary, right? It co-ops, it brings in, it aggregates different disciplines, right? One of the disciplines that history brings in, believe it or not, is called philosophy. You may have heard this word before, all right? Philosophy. What is philosophy? It's the study of ideas, essentially, right? It's thinking about things. It's thinking about why we believe in the things that we believe in. What is truth? What is justice? What is peace? What is morality? What is ethics? These are the inexorable questions. What is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Why are we all here? Are we alone? Etc. Right? Philosophy deals with and it helps adjudicate these things. There was a philosopher back in the 17th century in France. His name was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And Rousseau posited, amongst other things, that the most rudimentary social construct, i.e., e.g., the hunter-gatherers, right, was actually the most egalitarian. It was the most fair. It was the most sensible. It was the most conducive to a form of pervasive equality for all people at all times and in all ways that really, really make a difference. Why would Rousseau postulate that? Does that seem to be intelligible to you? Does that resonate with you? Well, if you think about hunter-gatherers, if you really think about hunter-gatherers, and Rousseau really sat around and he thought about this, amongst other things, and he thought to himself, well, you know what hunter-gatherers really did? You know what they really did? Well, you know what they had to do? What they had to run around and chase after lions and wildebeest, and they had to gather, right? And gathering. By the way, I didn't talk about gathering. I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion, but you guys know what gathering means, right? I don't mean going to the Walmart and gathering up, raisins or something, but well, actually, it could be. No, that's a bad example. Going to the Walmart and gathering up boxes of Fruit Loops. I mean, going to the woods, right, or the savannah, or wherever it is you have to be domiciled at as a hunter-gatherer person, right? Going to the wilderness and gathering nuts and berries and twigs and things like not twigs. You wouldn't be eating twigs. Gathering edibles, okay, edible things that are endemic to the ecology of the particular environment, which happens to correspond with wherever it is you're living. Right, that's what gathering is essentially equivalent to, right? That's what the function or the meaning of gathering is. So if you're gathering, is that a very efficient and productive way of accruing, agglomerating a large cache of foodstuffs? If I got to go out there and I got to pick individual thimbleberries, okay, because you guys are up in the UP, I got to go up there and pick individual thimbleberries off the thimbleberry bushes, right? How efficient is the picking of thimbleberries? How many thimbleberries do you think I can pick in the course of an afternoon? Especially if there is that, there's the yellow, the Smoky Bear from the National Park Service commercials, right? He's trying to hunt my ass, right? Because I'm just a hunter-gatherer and I don't have my 9mm G30 to defend myself with, right? I just got this stick over here and I can hit him with, right? So I gotta go out there and I gotta gather all the berries. I gotta not get eaten by wolves, not get mauled by bears, not get torn apart by other predators. That takes a hell of a long time, right? It's very inefficient, highly ineffectual. Now, that's gathering, okay? So we talked about hunting, we talked about gathering. Doesn't sound like a very fun place, okay? If we in this classroom, right, when we actually get to our classroom, our science laboratory that we get to learn about history in, when we get to that area, that sacred place of learning and those hallowed grounds, we don't want to get together and we don't want to become hunter-gatherers. Now, what did Rousseau mean when he said, well, hunter-gatherers, there's a certain justice, there's an equality, and there's an ability to them? What he was talking about is that to be successful as a hunter-gatherer society, you really need to rely upon all the constituent people who comprise the society as a whole. Because if you leave anybody out, whether it's the women, whether it's the children, whether it's the slaves, whether it's whoever, in fact, there was no slavery. Hunter-gatherers, as far as we know, okay, and some of this is probably lost through the mists of time, right, obscured through the passage of eons and lost to history. But We don't think they really had much in the way of slaves, or if they did, they really had to treat their slaves with some degree of deference and respect, and had to bring them in collaboratively in the process of actually working together cooperatively towards the collective goals of the group. Why is that? Well, precisely because their existence was so precarious and so contingent upon so many things that were beyond their control. And so it was really incumbent upon the hunters slash gatherer people to work together in a way that was optimized for their collaborative, cooperative, mutual success. Because if you leave somebody out and you denigrate them and you relegate them to a subservient role and you say, you know what, women, get over there and just go and do cleaning in the tents over there, right? And that's all you're doing, right? No, it's not going to work, right? You have to co-opt them in the process, right? Because you're very survival, right? The survival of the fittest and the strongest and the best and the quickest and the smartest is contingent upon the collaboration and the mutual acquiescence to this process of all of the people together cooperatively, right? So it's a very collaborative process. It's a very egalitarian process. It's not a coincidence that the motto of the French Revolution, which by the way was partially inspired by the writings of Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, was liberté, égalité, Christ, I can't remember the third saying. Liberté, égalité, and something else. But liberty and egalitarianism, okay? Liberty and egalitarianism. Egalitarianism means you're treating people equally, regardless of what their gender is or what their age is or what their demographic features happen to be. Okay, so in a way, Rousseau actually had a point. But this is not a philosophy class. We embrace certain aspects of philosophy as they impinge upon the study of history and as they inform and elucidate our understanding of it. But we don't really spend a lot of time in philosophy, even though I really like to talk about philosophy. But I get to talk about that in political science. So we'll leave that. Put that here down there in the trash can for now. No, don't do that. Bookmark that in your mind for now, okay? Because all this stuff is important. And if I didn't say so before, and I don't think I did because I forgot to say it, I should say it now. Now that we're coming up to 70 minutes into this thing, we got another 15 minutes left maybe. You should be taking notes, okay? And I'm sorry to just ambush you with that 3/4 of the way into this, but you should be taking notes all along, right? And I guess it's not as essential because you can always just rewind this and go back, and hopefully you're remembering this stuff because it's as memorable as I can make it, given the parameters and the strictures that I have to work with here. All right, so that's hunters and gatherers. Let's talk about these guys over here. All right, now I'm getting tired. You guys can tell I'm getting tired. I'm sitting over here on this desk. It's a highly uncomfortable place to sit because it's hardwood, but here I sit. I can do no more. I think Socrates actually said that. So I want to talk a little bit about these people over here. Okay, I said they're more evolved in terms of civilization. They're more evolved because they're more efficient at doing what they need to do. Why is the transition from hunting and gathering to agrarian type societies, why is that so dispositive? Why is that so critical? Why is that so significant? Why is that so helpful in informing our understanding of precisely how civilization evolves as a monolithic entity, as a monolithic concept? Well, this isn't really a difficult abstraction. This is common sense, actually. If you think about what is agriculture? What is agriculture? Well, it's going out there. It's throwing some. It's like Johnny Appleseed, right? You're Johnny Appleseed, right? I got. You guys can't see. I got apple seeds in my. I don't have any. So you got throwing seeds out there, right? Now, being a farmer is more important, obviously more laborious and more serious than that. You can tell I'm not a farmer because any one of you guys or possibly the girls in this class too could be farmers, right? You could be farm girls or farm guys, right? And you would say, man, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's not just walking out there and throwing seeds in the dirt and then going and watching Netflix or playing Skyrim. I wish it was that. Okay, if that's all it was, hell, I'd start farming right now. No, farming is actually very laborious. It's very tedious and takes a hell of a lot of work and a hell of a lot of time. And you have to get up really, really early. And I hate getting up early, which is one of the reasons why I'm making this YouTube video so we don't have to do the Zoom class. Whoops, did I just say that? Who cares? I know some of you guys don't want to get up early either, and you don't want to tell me about it, but I don't care because I know who you are. What about this thing? What about this this business of being an agrarian? Why is that better? How is that more evolved? Well, let's think about this, right? If I'm an agrarian type society, okay, we're talking about society, we're talking about social constructs, people coming together, living together in an organized social group. If I'm living as an agrarian society versus a hunter-gatherer society, what do I not have to do? Well, I don't have to run around and chase after Simba, okay, or George of the Jungle, or King Kong, or Bobo the chimp. I don't have to chase after any of those guys, right? I don't have to worry about them chasing after me, mauling me, beating me, eating me, molesting me, whatever chimpanzees do to people. They might, they might do quite a lot. They're devious sons of guns. Uh, what do I get to do? Well, I get to cultivate land. Okay, I get to cultivate land. That may seem pretty strenuous, but I assure you it's not in comparison, because this is a relative assessment. Most of the assessments that we make are relative. Even truth and justice and what is good, what is the righteous life, that's a relative assessment. We're going to talk about that later on when we get to Thucydides, but that's way down the line. But if you think about agrarian societies, you go out there and you plant, you cultivate, right? What can you do as an agrarian society? Well, you can have a more bountiful harvest in the literal sense, right? You can produce more food with less labor, less time, less effort, and therefore you can optimize your efficiency, decrease your overhead, and maximize the plentiful abundance for the sake of the collective good. That's a good thing. That's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for all of us. I say, let's go and be agriculturalists, because it beats the hell out of being the guy wearing the loincloth like George of the Jungle or Tarzan out there and getting chased down by the chimpanzees that want to beat him down and eat him, all right, just like he wants to eat them. What else is salient about agricultural societies? Well, think about this. If you're an agricultural specialist, right? I shouldn't use that term. That's actually a biological term of art. Agricultural specialists are animals that actually specialize in going out there and procuring food from, harvesting food. I actually can't think of any animal that does that off the top of my head. Maybe magical animals do that. If you're an agriculturalist, though, in the anthropological sense of the term, then you will have more time. Okay, you're gonna have more time. You're gonna have more energy, right? Because the process of farming. Think about it this way, right? When you're out there chasing after wildebeest in the jungle, or the wildebeest in the Serengeti Plains, and monkeys in the jungle, that's very energetic, right? You're metabolizing, you're burning a lot of calories, right? You got to replenish those calories. Not a lot of food to replenish because you're not catching a lot of food. You're not burning a lot of snowberries, right? Versus I'm eating agricultural byproducts, right? Now I'm eating, I don't know, millet and grain and wheat and barley and stuff like that, right? Sounds pretty disgusting, right? But I'm sitting here and I'm eating. Do I have to go out there and catch all that? I don't have to run after wheat. Don't have to catch it. Don't have to feed it. Don't have to do much work. Well, I can't say I don't have to do much work, because there is kind of some work, right? But it's a hell of a lot easier, right? And therefore provides you with great deal more time. And what do agricultural people do with the time that they have? Do they just sit around and they playing Game Boy Advanced over here, right? What are they doing with their time? I'm going to get an Xbox session in with my time. That's what I would do. But actually, what they end up doing is they become specialists in divergent trades. They specialize in different crafts and different skills and different functional skill sets that possess utility for society as a whole. Okay, so if you're living in ancient Babylon, okay, which is a great city, a great empire later on in ancient Mesopotamia, you could be a farmer, all right? Of course, you could be a farmer. You could be a farmer wherever, regardless of where you're living, right? But you could be a blacksmith. You could be a weapons maker. Okay, you could be somebody who specializes in ironwork or bronze smithing later on, because bronze is an amalgamation of different metals. It's an amalgam composite. I could be somebody who specializes in literature. And in point of fact, one of the things that agrarian societies, one premier advantage that agrarian societies have in relation to their more crude Tarzan-like barbaric counterparts that are running around the jungle, is that agrarian societies tend to be literate societies, right? I don't mean they're sitting around reading Shakespeare and Chaucer, right? That comes later. That comes about 3,000 years down the road. But they are literate in the sense that they can produce a rudimentary system of writing. What is the advantage of writing? We're going to talk about this in conjunction with our discussion of Hammurabi's Code, the first attempt at a rudimentary system of attributed justice. But for now, it's important to understand that writing is a way to add a level of certainty and certitude and assuredness, to impart those qualities to information that was otherwise subject to the vicissitudes of life being lost in translation. Because if we are strictly an oral society in the sense that we are transmitting things verbally, We have societies that were like that, right? The Greeks, well, the Greeks weren't the ancient, the early Greeks, um the Greeks of the Homeric period. Okay, and Homer was a blind, illiterate bard. He couldn't read, he couldn't write. And Homer was somebody who began a great oral tradition. He talked about this great epic story. It was called the Iliad and the Odyssey. It was actually two different stories. One was the story of King Odysseus going over to Troy, which is in modern day Ankara, near modern day Ankara and Asia Minor and Turkey. And then he comes back after the war with the Trojans, and Achilles gets shot in his heel, as we all learned that from the Brad Pitt movie. And well, Homer's telling this epic, right? What's the problem with a society that is exclusively contingent upon verbal transmission of information? What happens? I tell this to you, right? You know, I got A, B, and C that I'm going to tell you, right? And then you tell A, C, and D to somebody else, right? And then they tell A, E, and F to somebody else, and so on and so forth, and it goes to all these various convolutions, and it becomes more and more contrived, and it becomes lost in translation, until eventually it reaches the guy that's 55 people removed from me, right? And it's just completely unintelligible. Versus if I can write something down, I can write it down, and I can be very exact with respect to what it is I'm writing and what it is I'm stipulating and what it is I want and what it is I want to say and how it is I want to say it, right? As opposed to, I'm just going to speak, right? I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to hope that you interpret and transliterate and interpose whatever it is I'm saying, convey that to somebody in substance and with sufficient lucidity and clarity that it doesn't actually get lost in translation. So that's one advantage that writing has, right? It makes things more clear. It makes things more dependable. What is the importance of dependability? How does that what does that relate to? How about keeping track of financial records? Do you think tax records are reliable? You may say nowadays, Jeff, I don't know. You know, I don't know. There's a bunch of shadiness going on over there at the IRS, and there probably has been for quite some time. Well, generally, tax records are supposed to be reliable. All right, it's axiomatic. It is true to say that the most reliable records of any government are tax records. Okay, the second most reliable records of any government are death certificates. But tax records, right? So do you have does having the capacity to write things down, right, to render things, to transliterate things, right? Does that confer a strategic civilizational advantage upon an agrarian society that does not exist in the context of the hunter-gatherers? Of course it does, because you can ensure that financial transactions are solidified in such a way so that you can't second guess what the actual transaction was pertaining to. This is important for contracts, right? I went to law school, okay? That's why I was talking about the books on the back shelf. You guys wouldn't know this because you don't know who the hell I even am, other than the fact that my name is Jeff and I got a real poor taste in fashion. But when I went to law school, if you go to law school, you have to learn about this stuff called contracts, right? And contracts is probably one of the most boring subjects in law besides wills, estates, and trusts. But contracts are essentially, what is a contract? It's an agreement between two people to do something, right? And a verbal contract is generally unenforceable. It's very difficult to enforce. So what you do whenever you have a contract, right? You're gonna come over here and you're gonna put shingles on my roof, right, or something like that. I don't know what you're gonna do, right? We write that down. We stipulate precisely. We adumbrate the terms of the contract, and then we both co-sign. We enumerate that in a way that is cognizable to both parties and cognizable to an objective, dispassionate arbiter. Now that's important, right? Contract for the sake of trade. Okay. Do you think trade and commerce and business is important to the development of civilization? Well, you know what they say, right? You know what they say. I don't have my wallet on me because I'm in my dad's office here and I'm not planning on spending any money in here. But if I had my wallet, I'd turn out some cold, hard, greasy cash, right? I'd show you how much cash I got because you no doubt I got a lot, right? Look at how rich I look up in this, right? I got some Benjamin Franklins up in my wallet, all right? No, I don't actually. No, I have some George Washingtons in my wallet. I'm teasing. I wish I had some Benjamins. What do they say though? Money makes the world go round, right? And that's true now as it was true 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. And if money makes the world go around, right, and our commerce, the extent to which we, this agrarian civilization, exchanges goods or trade services for fungible goods and monetary assets, right? The extent that we can do that is going to determine the extent that we have the capacity to actually tax our people, because it takes money to make money, okay? Do you think financial records are important? Do you think it's important to be able to write this down legibly and keep track? Yeah, of course it is. All right. I'm belaboring the point. All right. And one of the things I'm going to say in the very first day of class, the actual physical first day of class, God willing, COVID willing, Gretchen Whitmer's executive orders willing, is that it's important to pay attention to things that I spend a lot of time talking about. Okay, hunter-gatherers and agrarian-type people are. This is going to be a big, massive essay question on your guys' first test. I can promise you right now. And if you don't believe me, or if I renege on this and I say, ah, just kidding, right? And your first test comes out and there's no question about hunter-gatherers, and you say, what the hell is this, right? You can refer me back to this YouTube video. You could say, Jeff, look what you said, brah. What's with this, my brah? And I'm gonna say, yo, brah, you're right. Okay, my bad. What else is true about agrarian societies? Well, we talked about hunter-gatherer societies having this quality about them, how they're very egalitarian, liberté, égalité, whatever the third thing in the French Revolutionary mantra was. Now, do you think agrarian societies are equally egalitarian? No, they're not. And why are they not? Because people that live in the agrarian society, the agrarian construct, are able to specialize in different skills. And when I cultivate discrete skill sets, right, or different people are cultivating different skill sets, right, do all skill sets in society confer equal advantage and equal utility in relation to the collective good? No, they do not. Is there a reason why the very distinguished and very honorable gentleman whose office I am in, my beloved father, is there a reason why he's got this really nice office and these nice books on interventional radiology, and this looks pretty rich in here? Is there a reason why that's the case? Yeah, because being a physician is very important, right? Because you have to have a certain skill set which requires a great deal of cultivation and a high degree of specialization. Is there a reason why me, right, the adjunct, right, could possibly afford to live in a old vintage 1986 trailer, okay, a single wide trailer, right, if I'm making good money? Well, yeah, because modern society doesn't really confer much utility or value on people who actually teach. And that's a travesty, and it has nothing to do with GCC or any other institution. It's just the way society is. It's the way things are. It's unfortunate, but it's axiomatic. It's the way people think about things in society. It needs to change, but we're not going to change it in this class, so we might as well forget about it. The point, though, is that doing different things in an ancient civilization conferred different value upon you as a person. And what that conduced towards, what that helped facilitate, was the development of what I refer to as a socioeconomic stratification, okay? Which means that you have a society that is highly stratified. It's hierarchical. There's different echelons within it, right? And what's up with that, right? Why is that the case? Well, because the priests have a certain utility function, right? The priests in ancient civilizations are the intermediaries between the gods and the rest of the people, right? They ventriloquize the will of the gods. And if I am a ventriloquist for Ra or Isis, not the Toyota-loving version of Isis that likes to wear face masks and has a penchant for AK-47s, I mean the original, the old school Isis, right? The one that was from Egypt, okay, before Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi came along and misappropriated that term for himself. The old school. What about the ancient gods of Egypt, right? What about that stupid movie, right? Well, if I'm a ventriloquist for the gods, if I'm the high priest of Isis or Ra or Nebuchadnezzar was a king, he wasn't a god, or Zool, right? Gozer from Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, the best, and then they got slightly less good after that. They franchise certainly subject to the law of diminishing returns, because the last one they made was absolute crap. It should never got made. But if I'm a servant of the gods, does that confer a high level of utility on me in an ancient civilization? Well, yes, it does. Why would it confer utility upon me as a servant of the gods, as an intermediary, as a ventriloquist for the gods? Well, if you're a cynic like me, I approach most of this stuff with a good deal, healthy degree of skepticism and more than a slight degree of cynicism, because a lot of this stuff that people believed 4,000 and 5,000 years ago has since been repudiated and overthrown and shown to be absolute, utter, farcical nonsense. But if you believe in the ancient gods of Mesopotamia, right, I'm not going to begrudge you that, right? Maybe there are some worshippers of Gozer in this class. I don't know. Maybe there are some worshippers of Poseidon. Maybe you're praying to Zeus right now that this lecture will end, that he'll strike me down with a bolt of lightning and you can get out of this because you're tired of listening, because we're coming up to an hour and a half and I'm going to be done talking about this soon anyways. By the way, just a perfunctory administrative note here. I'm still on slide number 16. and we still got 17 and 18 left, and there's no way I'm going to finish that. So I'm going to wrap things up with agrarian societies, right? And then we're going to go our separate ways. Okay, this is going to be Monday's lecture, technically. Okay, so if I don't think about saying this later, I'm saying it now just to clear the air. And I invite you guys to give me feedback. Okay, I really do. I'm going to reiterate that point again and again throughout these videos, and hopefully, I'm just going to make one more video in the remainder of this week. Today's a Sunday, and I suspect I'll probably have time to make another video between going to the gym and playing, getting my nightly steam session in. Hopefully, there's some gamers in this class. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you guys don't know what I'm talking about, but. So back to the point, though. Back to the let's close escrow on this discussion so we can move along and be done with this, and we can all go home. Or we can all turn off of YouTube and watch something more interesting and less boring than myself. The agrarian society. Okay, so they're more efficient, right, at cultivating, at sustaining themselves. They're able to produce more food more prolifically. Therefore, they're able to sustain a larger population, right, than hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers can only support a very limited population because there's very few of them, very precarious, and it's very difficult to actually procure for yourself sufficient supplies to be able to sustain subsistence level food, right? So agrarian societies tend to conduce towards, facilitate, enable explosion of population, right? You have a population curve that looks like this, right? It kind of looks like the COVID curve back in April, right? It's kind of curve is looking like that again right now. It's going to look like that again as we go back to school. Watch out. I know something about epidemiology. I'm in the office of a doctor right now, home office. It doesn't matter. It's still an office. What does that mean? Well, you got more population, okay? What is that? How does that relate to understanding civilization? Well, more population, more diversification, right? When you have a larger population, you have more people that can do more things. That's a statistical truism. Okay, you have a larger population down here in Detroit. Okay, so in Detroit, right, where I'm from, I'm not broadcasting from Detroit. I'm broadcasting from a place called Bloomfield Hills, but it's kind of like the boardwalk or the park place on the Monopoly board. Detroit's Monopoly board. That's where I'm broadcasting from. But in a very the larger the population, the more likely you're going to have outliers, right? People who are exceptionally good at doing certain things. So in a large population, an agrarian type civilization, right? These first cities, the first cities that we're going to talk about in ancient Sumeria, ancient Babylon, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Acadia, ancient Assyria, all the great cities of modern day Iran and Iraq, because that actually is the cradle of civilization, not just proverbially, but actually literally speaking, right? All those things had something in common, right? They had a couple of things in common, right? This is a point I should have made earlier, but it's a point that I'm coming to now. Number one, they had the fact that there was a lot of people in these relatively speaking, right? There was a lot of people in these cities. Okay, what does it mean when you have a lot of people? Well, it means you got to feed them, and well, yeah, it means that, right? But what else does it mean? It means that they can do different things because more people means that you're going to have a more diverse gene pool, and different people are going to be able to have different aptitudes. They're all endowed with different skills and different qualities and different aptitudes. That they are innately imbued with, right? Just like I can sit here and I can talk for an hour and a half or God knows how long about history, just bloviate all the live long day about this stuff, but I can't do math, all right? And so the larger the population, the more likely you're going to have people that are very proficient at doing a particular thing, right? So that leads to the creation of experts, right? Experts at making weapons, experts at writing text, experts at interpreting the will of the gods, experts at ruling over people, okay? And so we see the foundations of a highly organized, highly stratified, hierarchical system of society, of social organization that we don't see with our friends over here in the hunter-gatherer construct, right? Because they're all like a bunch of communists, right? Why do I say that? Well, pre-Bolsheviks, I should say, pre-Leninist theory, going all the way back to Marxist theory, because Marx actually said we should all be equal, right? We all wear the same clothes, we all wear the same, all the same office, all the same house, right? We all have the same rank. Okay, we're all privates, right? We're all sergeants or corporals or lance, private first. We're all E4s. We're all in the E4 mafia. We're all the same rank in Marxism, okay? And that's kind of the idea of the hunter-gatherers. We're all the same rank, okay? We may have one person who's our chief, right? But the rest of us are all equal, right? Not the case with agrarians, okay? In the agrarian society, everybody, not everybody, I mean, but there's a lot of diversification. Different people have different ranks. There are different levels of the socioeconomic stratification. They have different positions, different functions in society, and their rank and their positioning within that hierarchy is determined exclusively based on, number one, what they know, and number two, who they know. And what they know actually determines who they know, because what they know is going to determine whether or not you're a priest or a blacksmith. right? And whether or not you're going to be associating with the king and the prince and the generals and the leaders of the state, or you're going to be associated with the guys down at the local watering hole getting drunk every Friday and Saturday down there in Babylon. Okay, so what you know determines who you know, and you can only know these expert things if you have a society that is large enough to generate a large enough population that is actually conducive to diversification, specialization, and the development of expertise that allows for a profusion of skills and therefore creates a highly diverse but highly stratified society. Final point. Okay, and this really is the final point because you know the game is nearly over when I get up off this desk over here. The final point I want to make, there's a couple of questions here, okay? On this slide number 16, guys, and you can't see this, but take my word for it. This actually says slide number 16 over here. And point number one is that the transition to agriculture was made around circa 10,000 BCE. Okay, so just write that down. You should be writing a lot of this stuff down. You should write that down too. Number two, multifaceted causes deriving from ecological human factors. All right, so all that means is that the climate was changing. Okay, there was climate change going on around 10,000 BC, and if you watch that stupid Disney movie, I think it was called 10,000 BC. You see that the mammoths and the saber-toothed cats and the rest of those guys are dying off, or they're going up to the polar regions because it's getting warmer, it's getting wetter. And if it gets warmer and wetter, what does it start to look like? It starts to look very lush. You have greater vegetation. You have more opportunities for cultivation because you have a climate and a meteorological situation that is much more amenable to the development of crops and the sustaining and the maintenance of those crops, as opposed to a very frigid, very dry, very arid area. So climate change is occurring. It's not because these people in ancient Babylon are driving around in their their Escalades and their Tahoes and their Yukons, right? Maybe Barney and Fred Flintstone had that little truck bulldozer thing that they were driving around. It was like the thing that you see out there with the MDOT that's doing construction. I don't even know what the hell kind of vehicle they had, but maybe it was that. They had a lot of emissions from the dinosaur that was pulling them around. Probably not. But the point is that climate change was happening. We can get into this later on if you really want to know about why climate change was happening 10,000 BC. You could email me or you can call me and we'll talk all about that. Advancements and adaptations for greater efficiency. What were they? Number one, terraced farming. Okay, so you had rows of farming, and they were terraced hierarchically along an elevated plateau, right? So you had different levels of agriculture. You go down to Machu Picchu in modern day Peru. Machu Picchu is an ancient Mayan ruin, or I can never keep these guys. This is why I'm not teaching Mesoamerican history right now. I think it's either Mayan, Incan, or Aztec. I think if I had to guess, I'd say it's Mayan. But Machu Picchu, if you go to Machu Picchu, it's up on top of a mountain. It's this amazing. There's these big, huge monolithic stones. It's kind of like Stonehenge in the UK. And they built this many hundreds of years ago, right? And people don't know exactly how the hell they got up there. People have ancient alien theories. Hopefully, you guys don't watch that show on History Channel. I don't think it's on there anymore. But Machu Picchu has terraced farming, right? They have farming going up at these different echelons along the side of the mountaintop. That helps because it makes your farming more efficient. Okay. What else do you have? Well, you have irrigation, right? You can design canals, man-made canals, right, that enable what am I trying to say here? That enable the modulation, the modification of an existing body of water. So if you have a lake or a river or any sort of body of water, you can take water from that, right? And you can modify it and redirect it and then utilize it. You can bring it to where you need it to be to irrigate the crops that you're trying to grow. Okay, so irrigation is very important. Okay. Irrigation is also important in the sense that it requires people to work together collaboratively to actually figure out how an irrigation system actually works, right? So these things are kind of mutually supporting. They're reinforcing in the sense that the more you work together collaboratively, the more likely you're going to be able to figure out how irrigation works most efficiently, right? The more you're going to be able to develop a more effective system, the more you're going to be able to farm more effectively and more efficiently, right? The more that's going to cause you to come together and think more effectively and collaboratively, and it's a cycle that continues to repeat itself, right? So it's sort of mutually reinforcing. What else happens? Domestication of animals. Okay, I got this picture here of these guys out here in. Let's say this is This could be a lot of places. It's somewhere in the Fertile Crescent. It's probably along the Euphrates River. And these guys are on this slide here. This is slide number 16. You guys probably can't see this. Hopefully you still got the slideshow in front of you. But they got these oxen, right? And they're whipping the oxen, and he's going out there and he's pulling this plow. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have ever tried to tie yourself up to a plow, right? Like wear the yoke that the horse or the ox or the, whoever the goat wears. I guess goats aren't animals of laboring animals, right? Draft animals. But if you ever tried to wear the harness of a horse or an ox and then hook yourself up to an ox cart and pull that, even Magnus for Magnuson, all right? You guys ever watch ESPN number 6, all right? Number 7, that's kind of like where they got dodgeball on, competitive dodgeball. Hopefully, I got some Will Ferrell fans out there. But ESPN number 6, you got the strongman competitions, right? If you hook up, Magnus for Magnuson is the strongest man in the world. He's from Sweden. He's actually older than me, but he does a lot of roids, so he's jacked like the Hulk. Even if you hooked him up to an ox cart, it would be hella hard for him to pull that around, right? And if you ever try to push a plow through the soil, right, depending on the consistency of the soil, depending on a lot of factors, right? But the point is that the domestication of animals makes farming much more efficient and far less laborious and far less time consuming. And you're able to go out there and accomplish things and achieve things that will be much, much more strenuous, much, much more laborious, much, much more time consuming, but for the fact that you actually have domesticated animals, whether they're oxen, whether they're horses, whether they're, if you actually go back far enough, people were domesticating dogs, right? And I don't just mean dogs like, oh, come here, Fido, right? Come over here, I want to pet you and hang out with you and chill. No, I mean actually domesticating dogs for the purpose of working in an agricultural capacity, right? Now, I think about this, and maybe it's just because I got a stupid imagination, but when I think about this, I think about like a team of like, 50 Malamutes or something, right? Or 50 Golden Retrievers or something, right? Or Chihuahuas, even better. Yeah, Golden Retrievers. I got a Golden Retriever. You hook them up, right? You got a team of 50 of them, and you're like, mush, right? And they're pulling this plow. Can you imagine how many dogs you would need to plow your crops with this big old plow that's the size of the ox? I don't know. You'd probably need like 500. I mean, it's like horsepower versus dog power. 1 horsepower is equal to probably 20 dog power, right? So you got 4 horses out there. You got close to 100 dogs. So I don't know what dog power really looked like, but it would be hilarious to actually get a picture of that. That's a meme that I got to introduce in this lecture. So, what else do you need? How about this? All right, so there's a question here that I got coming up, and it's actually on the next slide, and we're coming up to an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm getting tired of sitting, and I'm getting even more tired of talking, and I'm sure you're getting even more tired of having to listen to me and having to watch with me and having to keep up with all this stuff that I'm talking about. So I shall bid you adieu, farewell, bonjour, bon voyage, tschüss, auf Wiedersehen. And until we meet again, friend, until we meet again. And I apologize for the non-editing of the last part of this video because you're going to see me come up here and I got a mouse over here and I'm going to go ahead and click on this mouse and hopefully I'm not going to screw up this recording because I'm going to be really pissed off if I do because I think this actually went better than I hope it was going to go. All right, guys, take care of yourselves and let me make sure I hit the right button here. And if somebody knows how to edit these videos, let me know and I can actually send you the whatever this, however this file downloads, I can send you this this file, and you can. I could probably figure it out. I'm just being lazy, but anyways, take care, guys. Be safe, and I'll hopefully be making another video before the end of the week. And if not, I'll see you next Monday. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.